Hi Sam, we're back here after the conference, our first editions here in Toronto. How was your experience here?
Yeah, reporting live from our Airbnb in Toronto. We actually wanted to go out to do the recording, but the weather turned a bit. Yesterday it was beautiful. So now, yeah, we chose to do it in our Airbnb. It's super cute here in Cabbage Town. But yeah, it was incredible to be at the conference. We learned a lot of things. It was amazing to see a lot of people that we just heard their names. I mean, we just know their names basically, but we interacted with them now live. And it was insane to see the whole community basically here in Toronto and feel the opportunity. So yeah, it was great to be here.
We also got to meet a lot of people of Shopify,
Yes.
a lot of people that work on the actual products, the developers, the product managers. How was that to have like conversation with the people who built the product?
Yeah, indeed. So maybe just for reference for people if they haven't been, which probably will be most. So there were a lot of talks actually. It was one day only, and there were a lot of talks that we could go to, which we did. But then there was also the opportunity to see a lot of people and really interact with them on the demo floor. So they had different booths, B2B booth, POS booth, etc. And there you could indeed interact with the developers and the project managers, which was incredibly interesting. It was sometimes really hard to divide our time between the talks, which were super interesting, and then also talking to everybody. So my feeling would be that ideally we have a couple of days to do all of these things, which is maybe too hard. But yeah, I forgot kind of your question actually. But
Yeah, we had many conversations, I think,
Yeah.
with the people who built the products, and
yeah, so
it's a great way to learn a ton, right?
yes, exactly. So maybe we can start with the themes. So Shopify brought out a lot of different themes, which are all placed under the Horizon name. So they basically have 10 themes, if I'm 100%
Correct.
right. So yeah, there is a lot of flexibility now built in. It was super fun to just play around and see who was building it. They had a big booth, the people from the Horizon team. So it's yeah, it's a huge. I mean, you feel that they're driving quite a lot towards baking in this flexibility for the merchants and making sure that we can all build together, basically the agency and the merchants, towards a more flexible front end. That yeah, that is just more flexible and more inherently flexible. So there are a lot of ways to build your blocks, to build your sections, to change the theme. There are way more color schemes. There are ways to rename certain sections. I mean, just a wholesale change of how a theme actually works, which creates a lot of options,
Definitely.
for sure.
I think it was also one of the opening talks in the morning that one of the designers came onto stage and showed how in a couple of minutes he configured a whole new theme for his store and was able to add the branding and add the uniqueness of the store in ways that in the past maybe require more custom work.
100%. So yeah, it definitely felt like a leapfrog for what you can do. And we're just excited to support this basically. So I think this will need a bit of a different mindset for merchants because they will just be able to do way more. But it also requires a bit of a different mindset for us, which we are super excited about because
Yeah.
we really think that this flexibility will just enable us to do more. And with the us, I mean the us with making sure the merchant is way more successful. So the collaboration also between the two. So I'm just very excited to see that happen and to really change the way we work so that we can enable this new paradigm for the merchants.
Yes, to me the whole Horizon themes that came out is a way of Shopify saying we want to broaden our vision of what we can build and what kind of stories you can tell with your store. We want to give a lot more uniqueness to the designs, and I think it will be great for the merchants.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, so by the way, Michiel is losing
Yes.
his voice a bit, so hopefully, I mean, we were both a bit sick, which was like a bit annoying because we were so excited to be here. So now we're already a bit over our top in terms of energy because we have to return home. So hopefully we get better soon, but we really wanted to do this recording because it's still so fresh in our mind, right? And so for me as well, everything around Horizon also is a perfect segue into what Shopify is doing in terms of AI, because you see obviously that they are looking to implement AI in different ways throughout the platform. And the front end is an obvious choice. So if you
Yeah.
talk about Horizon, it's obvious that they will infuse a lot of AI into that experience of making your storefront. And so what they are mostly building on is basically the flexibility that we were touching upon before as well.
Yes,
is that
talk
you-
about
Yeah.
the AI builder that they created for blocks and
Exactly.
sections.
So it's like in your assistant, you can just basically create blocks which are the level underneath a section. So a block could be a button or just a piece of text or an image or whatever. And then these come together into a section. And so you can design those blocks or create those blocks with the assistant. So just you basically code with English, right? Because you interact with language with the assistant. Those blocks are created, those sections are created. So again, within the team that is already way more flexible, you will have an additional flexibility layer to infuse sections that you really want to make that are bespoke for your company. So that's really exciting to see. And again, this places quite a lot of interesting things that people can do in the hands of the merchants. So yeah, I was really blown away by what this guy that you were talking about before was able to create just in a couple of minutes. So that
Yeah.
will be
It's
be
quite
awesome.
amazing that just by prompting, even if you don't have any understanding of coding, if you have an idea, the prompts, you write like what you want to build, and we saw like the live demo and the quality of what came out. It was like a section which has like
Moving cards.
moving cards. It was really unique, something that maybe a lot of developers would take quite a lot of time, was able like to prompt without having to write any custom code. That was really cool to see, because I think for a lot of our merchants maybe have great ideas of something that they want to build.
Exactly.
It's not always easy to like bring it across like how it should look like, and now every merchant has the possibility to try and build it themselves, right?
Exactly. No, 100%. There are a couple of things there. Like, obviously, it's just exciting to see how Shopify is leveraging their vast understanding of their own code bases and the open source code bases to make sure that you can generate relevant code. And then obviously what I'm just super excited about is that basically conceptually it just puts the bar higher, which will make sure if we accept this, we will be able, again, together with the merchants, to put another leapfrog on top of the bar that has been raised. So I'm just very excited to see where this new frontier, basically, or this new bar that is just way higher, will take us. Because this basically just means that we can build more, that we can create more wonderful experiences, that are updatable and flexible. And I mean, I just think that the collaboration between Shopify, the merchant, and us basically will just accelerate, and this acceleration will mean that we will just build way cooler stuff, which I think this is exactly what we want, because we want to support the merchants as much as possible. So I'm very excited about that.
Great. Another big topic, definitely in this year's editions, is the future of commerce. Everything that is happening in the space of chat interfaces and LLMs, and how we might not just use a website where we browse, but use LLMs to research products, discover new products, and create really unique experiences of how we find what we're looking for. Can you maybe talk a bit more what you have seen there?
This just blows our minds a bit. Like, it's also hard to grasp what the future might bring. So this brings me to a very indeed important point that was made. You clearly saw that nobody in the room basically knew what the future was going to give. So that puts us in an interesting position. And it's also interesting how you feel that Shopify is responding to that fact, because they basically also understand that they don't know necessarily where the future is going. because so much is changing. And so they try to put their platform out in the world in such a way that you have as many options as possible. So basically what Shopify is trying to do is that they create all the primitives, which are like the basic building blocks, to create experiences in all of the different ways that people can experience products. Mobile apps, web apps, indeed LLMs, conversational tools, etc. Different sales channels like Google Shopping or YouTube or whatever. So you feel that Shopify is really going towards that way of thinking about how they should empower commerce. So yeah, there is just a lot that they try to do what I just said that they want to do, is basically have MCPs, which probably you heard about if you're a bit more in the tech scene, but and just have the APIs available to make sure that you can infuse the products in all of those different sales channels.
These primitives that you're talking about are really like the foundations to make sure that however commerce is evolving, Shopify is on top of it and make sure that merchants have like the base layer to build up these new shopping experiences.
Exactly.
And I think indeed MCP, it's more like a technical topic where we should dive into another time. But one of the great demos that I saw was a store that was completely interactive through voice. So this person was talking to basically like ChatGPT kind of an interface, and he was explaining that he wanted to go on a trip, like snowboard trip. He wanted to find the snowboard. He had a certain budget, and like through voice, he was like going back and forth, and in the end, he got like a card that he could just go through the normal Shopify checkout. But this whole shopping experience was just not on the normal website, but completely through voice, and every aspect that was important to him, like times of color, like what kind of board that he needed, like what his experience level was, they could like match like the right product with this person's question. It was great to see.
And maybe I have a question for you, because you were in that talk, I wasn't. You were also referencing something that you could, because basically what we're discussing, again, like I said before, there will be different sales channels that work profoundly different than how we used to think about sales channels. Before it was a catalog, you pushed it to a certain sales channel. Now you potentially have it in a form of a conversational experience, and obviously if you have conversation, you need context. And so I think they also talked about a way to provide more context about your store, so that you can basically infuse that context if people on a conversational level interact with your store. So can you maybe just explain how that concept works? Because it will be, I think, concrete for people to understand.
So indeed, a lot of is the product data, but a store is a lot more than just product data. It's also what is your return policy? Can you do a pickup in store? And this is data that Shopify already can retrieve from the settings basically. But then there are like more like levels of content that you maybe want to provide. I'm losing my voice here. I'm trying my best.
No problem.
And they launched a new app. It's called the Knowledge Base. We should maybe link it somewhere in the notes. It is basically the place where you as a merchant can add information that if people ask questions about your brand, that you can place in there, that the LLM will go through. And if a person or a customer asks in this conversational certain questions, it will try to find matching information to give it better answers.
Yeah, which builds a bit on the topic that we have been discussing like for over a year now. It's to be able to not lose the richness of an experience that you might have in the typical visual experience that we now are used to, right, on a website with images and videos and etc. Not lose too much of that richness if you have a conversational interaction with the brand. And so the more context we can give, the more maybe based on that more context, we can generate a UI, we call it a generative UI, that creates on the fly an experience that is still branded, because people still love their brands and they want to interact with their brands, So basically in that way you can give the context, basically the color schemes, the context of your store, and hopefully we kind of go towards the situation where you have this rich branded experience even in the conversational ways of doing commerce.
Yeah, even more is I had a conversation with one of the product managers of that team, and we were talking about having personality as well. How does he formulate? What's the tone of voice? And indeed, like these chat interfaces might look very generic at the time, and a lot of the merchants that we work with have very great like experience and
Outspoken
brand
brands,
story.
yeah.
Exactly, and you want to infuse that even if the UI maybe at this time doesn't allow you to. So there are like new ways that we will have to explore of how we can add that brand experience and that storytelling that you have on your website today, how we can add that into new places of interactions with the customers.
Exactly, that's extremely interesting just to explore. And this again builds on the point that we made in the beginning, is like nobody knows what the future is going to give. And again, hopefully we're just on a platform, and again, Shopify is really dedicated to build that is as flexible as possible, so that these things can emerge and that we can support them in the fastest way possible to make sure they can emerge. And this is what I think personally is super exciting. Sorry, about what we saw. So maybe that could take us to, I think, two other topics that we want to discuss, if I'm not
Yes.
wrong, is B2B, is
Markets.
POS and markets. So markets, maybe just to touch on that, it's just a wholesale change. Maybe you guys saw this already in the editions or the summer edition that launched 2 weeks ago. And it was also referenced already in the previous edition, is that basically we need to structurally think different about how stores are set up. Before it was more, we have a store and we have a market connected to that store. That went into a bit of more flexibility underneath the market settings, but now, and you might have had different stores and with the different settings then on top of these stores. Basically now Shopify is trying to reimagine and try to support merchants from one store backend, because obviously having different stores for inventory levels, etc., it's kind of cumbersome. So what they try to do is put it all in one backend, put it all in one store, which again makes it way more flexible and easy to integrate with ERP systems, etc. So I think the message that I just want to give, and then I'll also just wondering what you think about this, is that we have to think differently about those markets now in Shopify. You really have to think about it. You have one backend and you can set up a whole lot of different D2C experiences for example, different geographies. You can also set up different experiences for B2B. Because maybe that's a different catalog, a different price, etc. And then there is also the whole retail experience, because obviously still Shopify is still growing massively in the B2B space and the retail space. They also see this as a strategic investment still to grow further in those specific areas. Mm-hmm. But this is also baked into the market setup and the structural setup that you can do from a store's backend. So this is also just super exciting to see, because this is now the base that they build out. But on all of those paths that go from that base that they now built, there will be a whole lot of different things that we can set up, which are super exciting. So yeah, what do
To
you
me,
think?
so the market interface in Shopify has been completely overhauled. It's now part of the navigation, not anymore of the settings. And indeed, for Shopify, I think it really helps merchants to easily or more easily go into new markets and have more fine-grained like ways of configuring how the pricing indeed is done, what kind of products do they offer there, and I see indeed that it gives so much more power to merchants in that space.
Yeah, because for example, just to give a couple of concrete things, and then maybe one thing that we discussed with some of the product managers is that one of the things that we saw, for example, you might have different bank accounts for different markets because you want to get certain currencies on different bank accounts. And then you can also have different entities. So before it was one entity, one store, basically. Now you might have different business entities that do business for yourself, obviously, as a merchant in those different markets. So you can also couple that. And then one thing that we ask, because we think that this is where we're headed, is that you can attach different themes to those different markets, because obviously the experience for a B2C or a B2B might be different. Now you can only couple one theme to all of those different experiences, but you can change the experiences, but it's still based on the same theme. So you can make customizations in the different markets, but you cannot do a wholesale change of a different theme on top of those markets. But we talked about this, and they also said that this might be what they are trying to go towards. So I think we will see this in the next months and years, where you can also just put in different themes, which is super exciting, obviously.
I think indeed one place that I would love to see this is that how our visual communication style and how we organize like our data on, let's say, the product detail page might be very different of how they do it in Japan, and they hinted at it. I felt in some of the talks where they showed like different versions, different color themes, and different like orders of how descriptions and add to cart buttons were like organized. So to me, I already had the idea that they would launch it. We had a conversation, I think, with Nicholas, who was on the team of markets, and between the lines, I could read that
something like that was coming.
Something like this is coming up, and especially for these brands that are expanding just beyond one continent, or beyond like D2C, B2B. Exactly. They have different requirements, and having different teams would definitely support that.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. Then maybe the last topic, which is also something that we're working on quite a lot, is the whole retail space, basically, and Shopify POS.
Super excited about this one.
Exactly. So it's also an alleyway that Shopify continues to build in. Why? It's quite obvious, because it's a massive opportunity. Still a lot of sales go through retail kind of setups.
I saw indeed some numbers, like if 20% is maybe online, 80% still happens in retail. And especially now, I feel retail is coming back bigger than like a few years ago.
We went off the COVID high, and we want physical experiences as well. But they need to be unified, obviously. You want to make sure that a customer, or you as a customer, you're known in the online system, but also in the offline system or the retail system. So this is just something that was continually coming back during all of the docs that we saw, that they just want to keep on investing. One of the areas that we looked a bit in was, you have the Stocky app now, which is like kind of a small ERP type of backend that they bought. I think it was an acquisition of Shopify, that they want to integrate completely into the POS system. So they're slowly working on this. This was also something that the VP of product was talking about very openly, that he said that they really want to make a system out of Shopify in which when they have new features, that it's really implemented correctly in the whole backend of Shopify. This maybe seems quite easy, and this is what we expect from a company, but and this is also what you felt when you were in the room, when the company or the platform gets so big, it's actually a challenge, and it's a very interesting challenge to make sure that all of those new features also come still with a certain ease of use. And so he's very, very focused on this, which made me very happy, actually. This might mean that things sometimes go a little slower than you would think, but on the other hand, it creates also a nice foundation and a sustainable foundation for the future, which is, I think, what you want if you invested in a platform like Shopify as a merchant.
Exactly. I think especially as so much more feature to Shopify, you don't want to have like apps who build on top of the platform feel like a disjointed experience of how you interact and how you do things with it. So having like a good system that makes sure that the Shopify native features and the apps that build on top of it have like a very coherent and consistent way of working and interacting with it is very important, especially when new merchants start with Shopify and the platform. 100%. That these learning curves is not as steep anymore.
Yeah. And also, like, they talked a lot about time to value for apps, but also if you think about this concept for Shopify, it's like they want to, basically they're constantly working on making sure that merchants get as much value out of the platform as fast as possible, basically. And this is just a very interesting way of thinking about the platform. And it's also a huge challenge for them to keep making sure that this is still true and that they don't like increase the time to value by adding new features and more complexity. So this is, I think, a very interesting world where they live in, that they want to do both, basically.
Bringing it back to POS,
Yes.
they have been building quite a lot of more extensions, components. How do you see, like, for the retail space, how will this impact the retail?
Well, I just think that there are a lot of niches still. Like Shopify tries to build for 80%, right? And in the beginning, building for 80% means that you don't build certain things and you focus on other things. But the more that we are building for POS and retail, the more will be included in that 80%. So I just think that the whole experience from a retail perspective will also become, if we again circling back to the beginning, becomes way more flexible for all types of different retailers. So like you said, they're just, again, making those primitives to make sure that we can extend the platform, change the platform, build stuff that certain retailers might need to make their workflows automated and have a good customer experience, etc. So you just feel that they are putting pedal to the metal in terms of investments to create that flexibility and to create that great retail experience. And I think that will have a massive impact on everybody that has both tools, the online store and maybe the other sales channels that we have been talking about, and the retail part.
I see a lot in POS opportunities for agencies and app builders to create those unique experiences that retail requires. So I think it will be a huge opportunity for Shopify and also for the merchants to also include retail in their experiences to customers.
Exactly. Yeah, so it really becomes a super interesting commerce base, basically. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about the future. And I'm really thankful that we could be here, interact with all of the people and just be in a different place for a while, let it all sink in, and have a really deep experience like this. So I'm very happy. Thanks also for joining.
Yes.
We lost our voices and maybe some health, but I think we're very thankful that we were here. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Hopefully this just gave you a bit of a sneak peek, because not everybody can be here, into what this Editions was all about. And hopefully I think next year we'll be back.
Yes, I come back very energized with a lot of ideas. Yeah, exactly. We had such a great time here in Toronto. Great to see all of the people of Shopify. I think so many bright-minded people, and the whole conference. It was such a blast to be here. So
Great.
very happy.
See you next time.
See you next time. Thank you very much.